Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And today we're going to look at Obi-Wan Kenobi. We're sitting, about 4 weeks away from its premiere. And there's an article in Screen Rant which is kind of saying what I've said before with regards to, will it be an Obi-Wan show? Will it be bait and switch? Will the focus be on other characters more? I hope it isn't. And I really want the show to be good and I want it to succeed. But it's got something that, from the videos that we've seen so far, the trailers and whatever, it looks like there may be more focus on other characters than on the lead, which I think will be a shame and I think will be wrong. And it may not work. I hope it does. I'm very positive. At the moment, I think it could work. I think it could be great. But if they take too much of the focus away from the lead, it's going to drift into obscurity. And I'm hoping it doesn't. But we shall see. Anyway, I'll put myself in the corner. We'll have a look at this article. As I say, it's from Screen Rant. And it's just out a few minutes ago. So I did a video of it straight away. I thought I'd share the good news. If it's good news. Anyway. So, here's the article. Obi-Wan Kenobi is already repeating Boba Fett's worst Star Wars mistake. Despite taking place at different points in the timeline, Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Book of Boba Fett face similar challenges to each other. Mainly one, I think, budget and scope. You're working with television, which is always going to be a challenge when you're dealing with a cinematic-based project. So you can't have that entire sort of grandiousness of the scenes that you can on a film. There's technical limitations as well. So you're not going to get that. But that doesn't mean you can't have good television. One only has to look at The Mandalorian to see that, yes, you can. But more of that later. Moving into the article. Despite promising to be an important new chapter in the Star Wars story, Obi-Wan Kenobi looks to have already repeated the Book of Boba Fett's worst mistake. Well, there's so many. There wasn't much by way of Boba Fetting. I mean, he's a bounty hunter and sort of a man of violence, and yet he was sitting around talking all the time. There was very little shooties. You know, no action like that. And then the only action you saw in, I think it was episode 3, was that god-awful moped race. The scooters. I would actually have been embarrassed had someone come in and seen me watching the show at that point. It was so bad. I almost just turned it off there and then. I did struggle to the end with it, but it was bad. And then the show itself was so bad. You had to put 2 episodes of The Mandalorian in the middle of it to boost the ratings, and that lost the entire narrative of it. And rumor has it that this Boba Fett series 2 is in production. I'm like, why? Why? The first one was so bad. Please don't inflict that. I will have to watch it, but I don't want to. And so you're making me do something I don't want to do, and it's horrible. Anyway, I'll return to this. I keep doing tangents, and I shouldn't. Although the 2 shows are set decades apart chronologically and feature an entirely separate cast of characters, both series share surprising similarities. One similarity in particular risks derailing the new Star Wars project before it has even begun. And this is something I have mentioned. I mentioned it in the front piece of this, and I mentioned it in previous videos. Taking place after the events of Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan Kenobi follows the titular Jedi Master as he begins his protective vigil over the young Luke Skywalker. Following the fresh on the heels of the Emperor's victories, the series sees Obi-Wan at a particularly low ebb. Understandably disillusioned and pessimistic as he carves out a new life on Tatooine and carves a cave, because he's got all that time on his hands, and a lightsaber. 2 lightsabers. He can make short work of it. As well as establishing the Ben Kenobi alter ego in the live-action Star Wars saga, they actually, on the side of this, I mean, supposing they're hiding from the Emperor, they're hiding from the forces of the Empire and Darth Vader. So, when it comes to hiding, he might be a Jedi Master, but he's not very good at hiding. He goes to the home planet of Skywalker. He goes to the family of Skywalker, in the home of Skywalker, and hands over a child called Luke Skywalker and doesn't change the name. Oh, and everyone knows him as Obi-Wan Kenobi, so he has to take on a new identity. So he becomes Ben Kenobi. Say one thing for the Jedi, they're crap at hiding. As well as establishing the Ben Kenobi alter ego in the live-action Star Wars saga, Obi-Wan Kenobi will also introduce live-action versions of the Imperial Inquisitors, who are sworn to hunt down and destroy the last remaining Jedi. This conflict will take the focus of Obi-Wan Kenobi's story beyond the boundaries of the desert planet, creating a much grander scope. And there's nothing wrong with that, in theory. While on the surface it may seem like this approach bodes well for realising a more richly layered entry for the Star Wars series, it also poses a potential problem. Very much so indeed, and this is what I've mentioned before, and we're getting to the nub of the matter now. By introducing new off-world elements and expanding the scale of the narrative, there's a danger that Obi-Wan Kenobi could lose sight of its eponymous protagonist in lieu of other, less compelling characters. The Book of Boba Fett received criticism for diverting the action away from the main charismatic lead bounty hunter. Charismatic is a very strong word to use there. Featuring whole episodes away from the main Tatooine storyline. That's right, they threw in 2 episodes of The Mandalorian into the middle of it because ratings. With Obi-Wan Kenobi set to borrow a similar narrative approach, there's a real risk that the series could disappoint fans in much the same way as its forerunner. Indeed, it's the Obi-Wan show. And if you're going to have episodes where there's no Obi-Wan or very little Obi-Wan, then that's kind of bait and switch, and you're going to have episodes given over to the Inquisitors. We don't want to see that. We don't mind having the Inquisitors in it, but it's got to be Obi-Wan's show. You know, we've got to have him. And I've said all the way through, when you look at the trailers and you look at all the product release and things like that, and the release images and that, there's very little Obi-Wan and there's very much everyone else. And it doesn't bode well if that's what you're seeing in the trailers. You want it to be an Obi-Wan show. Ewan McGregor is a brilliant actor. He's playing a brilliant role of a well-written, well-thought-out, fully realised character. We know his story. We know who he is, what he is. We know what he's like. We know his ending. It should be about him, about the lead character in his own show. And if it isn't, it will disappoint, and I think it will ultimately mean a constant falling of ratings to a point where it becomes embarrassing. And I think we don't want this. We really don't want this for this show, you know? Anyway, getting back to the article, and it's just come up to what I've mentioned, a particular point of contention for the Book of Boba Fett viewers were the episode's focus on Din Djarin, Grogu, and Luke Skywalker. Although gaining an insight into Grogu's Jedi training was intriguing, many critics argued that the overall effect was to leave the series feeling like a spin-off from The Mandalorian, rather than being a worthy addition on its own terms. Already, Obi-Wan Kenobi faces similar problems. The confirmed inclusion of Hayden Christensen's Darth Vader, for instance, guarantees that at least some of the series' 6 episodes will take place beyond Tatooine, drawing already stretched narrative resources away from Obi-Wan himself. And I've said this all along. This could leave the show trapped between the confines of a smaller, Tatooine-focused story and a much grander, galaxy-hopping space opera style epitomised by the Star Wars movies. And that's it. We don't want the big, grandeur, space-hopping thing. This is an Obi-Wan show. We want Obi-Wan. As the Book of Boba Fett proves, there are risks with blending both small-scale and expansive storytelling. However, while there may seem to be a narrative similarities between the two shows, there are also reasons why Obi-Wan Kenobi may be more successful. Well, yeah, I mean, certainly the characterization, as I've mentioned, the actors, as I've mentioned, the scope of the story can be more focused as well. But we're getting... For one, Obi-Wan is a character with whom audiences are already extremely familiar, meaning there is less need to focus solely on him. Ooh, I don't know. Want to focus on him. Another consideration is that, due to its location in the timeline, Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't have to lean on the wildly successful series like The Mandalorian, thus making any deviation feel more part of the main story. As such, the parallels between the two projects, while clear, are no means exact. And thanks to the narrative similarities, both shows have to balance smaller, self-contained stories within the expansive ambition that makes Star Wars so compelling. In the Book of Boba Fett's case, striking this balance occasionally proved too difficult. Yeah, and it was also poorly produced. Like I said before, that's chase scene with the moped thing, space moped, space bikes, whatever you call them, was embarrassingly bad. You had a car driving at 20 miles an hour, an air car going up the road. Honestly, you could have got out and ran and caught up and jumped on and done it. They were trying to make it feel high-paced, and it wasn't. It was appallingly bad. However, if Obi-Wan does manage to avoid repeating the Book of Boba Fett's biggest mistake, it must ensure at least that it is aware of the potential danger so as to avoid the pitfalls. If not, the Star Wars entry could up feeling like just another inconsequential spin-off rather than an essential part of the wider saga. I completely agree. I'll come up and we'll round this video off. Yeah, so Obi-Wan has the potential to be one of the greats if they keep the focus on Obi-Wan. Sure, we know we're going to get a bit of Vader. That's fine. Whether they meet again, well, I think they do. They definitely meet. And it'll be their last one before they meet again on the Death Star. But you can't have whole episodes without Ewan McGregor on the screen. You can't have large parts of it without, of any particular episode without Ewan McGregor on the screen. It's got to be the Obi-Wan show. That's fine. Yes, you can do little asides. You can get the narrative sort of having a second story arc. You can do that with interlacing the two. But as long as you get a lot of Obi-Wan, a lot of Ewan McGregor, it should work. Don't pull the main drag of the story away from the Obi-Wan on Tatooine looking after Luke. That's the important thing. Sure, have other sidelines, have other story arcs, but keep the core pure, and it'll work. Drag it away from that, and it will fail. And it's the trouble. They might bait and switch it. They may make the focus of the action on the Inquisitors, on one Inquisitor in particular. You know you're going to get a Vader heavy episode. But again, that will work quite well if Ewan McGregor's in it to a similar extent, Anyway, that's my take on it. That's how I feel, and I think, like I say, there's only 4 weeks to go. In 4 weeks' time, we'll all know. Anyway, I'll finish it there. If you like what you see and hear on the channel, please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications of future output, leave a like, leave a comment, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, and goodbye.